My name is Kurt Mankovetsky. I'm a Starfleet Senior Chief Petty Officer. That's my rank, but my job for the last 19 years has been journalist. I'm a senior editor and reporter for Stars and Laurels, the news service operated by and for Starfleet personnel. Right now, we're here on Mishavel 2, where I help to run the Stars and Laurels office for the Vulpecula sector. Let me clear up a few common misconceptions about what we do. Yes, our operation is officially a part of Starfleet, but we are fully editorially independent. We do journalism, not propaganda. And our freedom of speech and freedom of the press is guaranteed by the Federation Charter just the same as it is for any civilian news agency. We produce the highest quality, most rigorously fact-checked reporting we possibly can on all issues relevant to Starfleet for the benefit of all those who serve in Starfleet. To help ensure our independence, our most senior positions, publisher, editor-in-chief, and so on, are held by civilians, some of whom are retired from Starfleet, and our other editors and reporters, like me, are either non-commissioned Starfleet personnel or civilians. No officers. Can't trust them. I'm kidding. Starfleet officers are people of honor and integrity. Of course you can trust them. Just not to be journalists. We take our independence very seriously around here because the people we are here to serve rely on us for the truth. A big segment of the audience for what we do consists of Starfleet personnel who are stationed outside Federation territory, out on the frontier in unclaimed space, or in sectors like this one, which is part of the Luzonian Interstellar Kingdom. The Luzonians aren't members of the Federation, but we do have a defense pact with them. They don't have much in the way of a military, since they devote most of their resources to searching for the long-lost head of their first king, Luzonius the Originator. They believe the head has life-giving properties, and once they find it, they plan to use it to make a broth that will make anyone who drinks it immortal. They haven't found it yet, but I say good luck, fellas. And if you ever do find it, save me a cup. Anyway, there's a sizable Starfleet presence out here, and we're pretty far from the Federation border. For Starfleet personnel, we're often the only reliable source of information they have about what's going on in the rest of the galaxy. People who read our stories or watch or listen to our broadcasts need to be able to trust that we aren't being influenced to spin our stories one way or another by Starfleet or by anyone else. The Luzonians are mostly very nice people, if a bit odd, but sometimes their government can be a little pushy about wanting to review stories before we publish. Not long after I got here, there was a bit of a controversy when some officers in the Luzonian Royal Guard saw a group of off-duty Starfleet personnel playing a pickup game of spaceball and mistook the ball for Luzonius the Originator's long-lost head. The Luzonians demanded the ball, the Starfleet group refused, things almost got ugly, and when it was all over, the Luzonians were understandably embarrassed and really didn't want us to print our story about it. Our position was the incident spoke to tensions between the Starfleet contingent and the Luzonians, and therefore our audience deserved to know about it. And we did publish the story, and the Luzonians were not happy about it, but that was 6 months ago now, and they seem like they're mostly over it. That reminds me, so the Luzonian government is the Luzonian Interstellar Kingdom, right? The LIK. Back when this controversy over the spaceball was happening, I said to my boss that we should start a new division of our office called the Department of Integrity and Consistency, so that the next time the Luzonians pushed us to kill a story, we could say, "You can't lick our dick." She didn't go for it. Excuse me a moment. Okay, this is one of my reporters. I need to take this. I apologize. Only be a minute. Misty, what you got for me? Okay, that sounds fantastic. And who's the source? Are they reliable? Grislow Brimlax. I know that name. Aren't they Tarjarnian? Well, it is important because did you speak with them in person or over subspace? Over subspace. Was there a visual? Audio only. Okay. Misty, you need to talk with them again, either in person or on a subspace link up that has a video channel, because it's very important to know which face was talking when they told you that. Yes. Tarnjarians have two faces, and one always lies and one always tells the truth. And there's a way you can tell which is which, but I can't remember what it is. I'll have to get back to you. Stay on it. And if you manage to set eyes on Grislow, note which face is talking. All right. Good luck. That was Misty Rokuda, one of my aspiring aces. She's over in the Nervarza system chasing down a story which hopefully you'll be hearing about very soon. What is it? I can't say what it is. You'll find out when the story's published. If it's published, which I'm confident it will be. Misty's still green, but she's got the fundamentals and she's going to be a good reporter someday. Let's just say it's not the kind of story you'd ever get from our distinguished competition over at Fed magazine. And I'm sorry I even brought that up. Please do not get me started on Fed magazine. What's my problem with Fed magazine? I don't know. How about the fact that it and Stars and Laurels are natural enemies? We do legitimate hard journalism and they do fluff. Did you see their lead story last week? Their big cover story? Perfect example. They got the blockbuster scoop that Starfleet is preparing to introduce new uniforms. Wow, what a story. And this time, the division colors are going to be swapped around. And they went all in depth and explained the reasoning behind why command is going to be red now and operations is going to be gold. And I mean, who cares? Is that the kind of information members of Starfleet serving hundreds or in some cases thousands of light years from home need? Nobody reads it for the articles anyway. They read it for the pinup. That's why around here we don't call it Fed magazine. We call it Stars and Garters, and we don't mean it as a compliment. Though even I will admit, a few weeks ago, Mr. Stardate 22506, not a bad looking dude. Don't think the garters were needed in that case. And they were too wide, they made his legs look small. But that's not the point. The point is, we report news, they pander and titillate, and their distribution numbers are twice what ours are. And yeah, okay, I'm carrying a certain amount of resentment about that. I just think in this perilous era in which we live, it's irresponsible for Starfleet to publish a magazine like that and send it out to the troops, so to speak. And I know Starfleet Command doesn't see it that way, which is the real problem, if you want to get down to the bottom of it. When Rufus was elected president of the Federation, he forced out the old guard and installed his cronies to run Starfleet as an instrument of his administration. And nobody could believe it at first, and nobody even said anything. Almost nobody. I said something, and that's what I'm doing here. Because this time last year, I was a reporter in Paris, and now I'm on Michevel 2. And they made me a senior editor so they could say it was a promotion instead of a punishment, and we all know that's bullshit. President Rufus is incompetent and corrupt, and he thinks the whole government, including Starfleet, works for him personally. I spoke up against it and I was banished to the wilderness. And it wasn't just me. Other people spoke out too, and the same thing happened to them. Surtak, who was covering the peace negotiations between the Vladimirians and the Volodymyrians for us. He wrote that series exposing how the supposedly impartial treaty President Rufus was pushing them to sign was really just a Vladimirian wish list. He was transferred home to Vulcan. Now he works out of our office in Tvatchik. No explanation ever given. Remember Thucytotron, the first fully autonomous robotic journalist? Used to cover the Federation Council for the Tycho City Herald? Now he takes orders at a fly-in restaurant in the Snidarius cluster. It sounds like I've got to be making that up, but that's real. I saw him myself. When I was traveling out here from Earth, my transport ship stopped in the Snidarius cluster and I had lunch at that restaurant. And you know what? He does a great job. But that's not the point. Delivering burgers and milkshakes to customers in the parking zone is not what those scientists on Ganymede built him for. And we all know why he's there, because last year he pressed the leader of the Darzad delegation on why they all suddenly changed their votes to support Rufus's cockamamie proposal to build a wall along the Klingon border. A wall! In space! This might be hard for you to believe, but I take what happened to Thucytotron even more personally than what happened to me. I have plenty to complain about, and this is definitely not the beat I wanted to have at this point in my career, but this isn't such a bad place, all things considered, and at least I'm still on the job. I'm still a reporter. They jettisoned Thucytotron entirely out of the business. That's part of it, but the greater part of it is I know him. Knew him. We worked together years ago, right after he came online, and they sent him to write for the Baltimore Banner-Sun before he went to Tycho City. That's where he first got assigned to cover the Federation Council, and we met not long after he arrived in Paris. He wasn't the best hang at first. Casual conversation wasn't part of his original programming, but once he got his verbal module upgraded so that he could talk with people outside of a professional journalistic setting, we started getting to know each other, and I realized that he was not just a good reporter, he was a good guy. Do you remember the Al-Khwarizmi Graviton scandal? Thucydides and I broke that story together. The initial source was someone we both knew, so we convinced our respective editors to make it a collaboration between our papers, and we investigated and reported that whole thing as a team. And we were the only ones. No other reporters took it seriously at first. Everybody thought it was impossible that a Starfleet captain and a member of the Federation Council could have been working together to smuggle graviton generators to the Ulusians. No one from Earth would do that, they said, much less for money. The Federation stopped using money, however long ago it was at that point. Humans don't care about that sort of thing anymore. Thucydides and I both knew that was bullshit. It hadn't been that long since they phased out money. People don't change that much that soon. You want to know what I really think? People don't change that much. We chased that story for months. Finally, we cornered the first officer of the Al-Khwarizmi at a bar on Maui while he was taking shore leave, and he agreed to go on the record with what he knew about those missing graviton generators and where his captain was taking them, and that's what blew the doors off the whole damn thing. We didn't write this in any of the stories, but it was Thucydides who actually deserves most of the credit. He noticed that the first officer of the Al-Khwarizmi had checked into a hotel on Maui under a fake name that he had also used to register at the Hilton orbiting Antares 12, where he liked to meet this Talarian freighter captain that he was having an affair with, which we found out through a private investigator friend of mine who managed to get a peek at the sealed divorce records. It's possible I might have noticed the name if Thucydides hadn't, but can I be sure that I would have noticed it in time for it to do any good? No, I can't. I'm proud of the work I did on that story, and I can honestly say I held up my end and then some, but there's not a word of it we ever could have printed if it weren't for that damn robot. He was fearless, literally. And one day he asks the wrong question to the wrong person, and next thing you know, he's gone. And I know they say he's just an incredibly sophisticated automaton and he's not sentient and he doesn't have feelings, but if you could have been there at that restaurant the last time I saw him, and if you could have seen the look on his face when he realized it was me. This president doesn't want journalists out here telling the truth, especially the ones that he considers personal employees because they work for agencies that are part of the government. What he wants are publicists. And while I'm sure those masters of puffery over there at Fed will only be too happy to oblige in exchange for continued access, we here at Stars and Laurels are not going to roll over so easily. And if we ever do, I'm going to find somewhere else to work. Since I've come to this office, I've gotten to work with a lot of young reporters. That's been the one big bright side to my unofficial exile, getting to know all of these bright, hungry journalists who are going to carry this profession into the future. I have a lot of hope and a lot of confidence in them, and even though they don't need me to remind them, every day I drill it into their heads that their job is to discover and report the truth, not to twist the truth to the liking of whoever is in charge, and not to confuse neutrality with accuracy. If you're on a planet and one person says the sun just went supernova and another person says it didn't, it's not your job as a journalist to quote both people and let the reader make up their own mind. It's your job to find out what happened. Either the sun did go supernova, in which case in a very short time all your problems will be over, or the sun did not go supernova, in which case you've still got a story to write. The details always matter. That's what I tell these kids more often than I tell them anything else. The facts. Who, what, when, why, how, where, which dimension. This one? Another one? Was it an alternate reality? Is that reality permanent and accessible, or was it only temporary? Are you the only one who can remember it? If so, why? Do you have any tangible evidence of its existence? The basics. To do this job right, you need to know how to get the basics. You need a handle on the details. You need to know which questions to ask, of who, and when. You need to follow your nose, figuratively, unless you're a Nargacardian who was born with that mutation that allows you to detect lies via scent, in which case, literally. But the thing you need more than any of that is guts. You need to have the courage to stand up to the bullies and the crooks who will do anything to stop you and cover their own asses. The pen is mightier than the sword, the phaser, the photon torpedo, anything else you can think of, but you've got to use it. The willingness to tell the truth no matter what. That is the most necessary weapon a reporter can have. I learned that lesson the hard way. And I learned it from a robot. A robot, a good friend, a great reporter, and the best damn car hop in the Snidarius cluster.